I'm a huge horror game fan, and when I heard the news about a new one floating around the internet, I was excited. On forums and chat rooms, it was touted as one of the scariest experiences someone could play. Naturally, I was dying to get my hands on it. Despite all my searching, though, I couldn't find anything about it other than the name. It was called Behind Hell. After a couple days of no luck, I began to ask around online. Most people said they couldn't find it either, and you needed some kind of special access from the creators to play it on a locked site. This frustrated me, and I refused to give up, diving deeper and deeper, desperate to play it. I finally found someone who told me that I would have to email the creators, and he gave me the address. He told me that he had been invited to beta test it before release, but after getting in contact from the creators, he had declined to test it. I asked him why, and he told me that the kind of feedback they wanted was disturbing and unethical. I asked him what he meant, but he refused to go into details. I ended the chat and pulled up my email. I sent a quick message to the creators telling them I had heard about their game and I was chomping at the bit to play it. I gave them a few details about myself, what kind of games I played, what kind of horror I found the most terrifying, and then I sent the email. It was only a few minutes later when I was notified I had received a new email. Excited, I pulled it up and saw that it was a response from the creators. I quickly opened it and read,
"Thank you for your interest in our game Behind Hell. We appreciate your enthusiasm to the horror genre, and it's because of fans like yourself that we make games. Below you'll find a link to the game's site where you can play it. Your code is BUNNY. If you enjoy our product, please consider donating to the site. Now, turn off the lights and enjoy. Sincerely, Behind Hell Studios."
I couldn't believe it. After days of searching, I was finally going to get to play the game. I obediently turned off all the lights in my apartment, sat down in my computer chair, put on my headphones, and clicked the link. The page that popped up had a black background and a single button prompt that read, "Play Behind Hell." Smiling to myself, I took a deep breath and pressed it. My whole screen faded slowly to black, and then a clock face appeared. It read 2 a.m. I checked my watch and saw that it was actually 2 a.m. Cool, I thought. Off to a neat start. Then the game began. It started off from first-person perspective, my screen displaying the view through my character's eyes. The man I was controlling slowly rolled off a dirty bed in a sparsely furnished room. Everything looked plain and bare, the walls holding no windows and the floor was filthy. The room was dark and a flashlight was lying on the ground by a closed door, its white beam the only source of light. The graphics weren't anything special, but they were serviceable for this kind of game. I played around with the controls a little bit, getting used to the sensitivity and stiff animations. I walked over to the flashlight and I was prompted to pick it up. My character stooped and grabbed it, then spoke.
"I need to find the door."
I started to feel the first pangs of disappointment. I had played so many games like this where you needed to run away and find the exit while some monster chases you. I pushed those thoughts aside and told myself to give it a chance. I had just started. I pushed the door open and found myself standing in a long, dark hallway. Once again, the only light was from my flashlight. I began exploring and soon found myself lost in a labyrinth of plain concrete floors and matching walls. The only sound was from my character's footsteps, and I lost count of all the left and right turns I was making. Finally, after 5 or 6 minutes, I stumbled upon a room with a wooden desk in the corner. I approached it and saw there was a note on it. I picked it up and it read,
"We must seal the door. We only have a few days left before the Talo returns. Everyone else has died. It's just me again. If you're reading this, please come find me. I will tell you what you need to do to be free of this place. I will tell you how to save yourself, how to save everyone. The Old Man."
Interesting, I thought. At least this game has some story. Now if we could just switch up the environment a bit, that'd be great. I chose a branching hallway at random and once again found myself pushing through another dark maze. I noticed the sound had changed slightly and I could hear something else, something faint. I took my hands off the keyboard and pressed my headphones against my ears, listening. It sounded like something smacking its lips rapidly. I kept going and suddenly I was in another room like the last, but someone was leaning against the wall at the far end. I approached him and it was the old man. He looked up at me, and as I stood before him, he sighed heavily.
Thank God. I didn't think anyone else would come before time ran out. I know you're probably confused, but I need you to listen to me. There's a door in here. You'll know it when you see it. You need to seal it. Once you do that, you'll be free of this place, free of everything.
Suddenly, text popped up on the screen, and I saw I could choose how to reply. I scanned my options and pressed the one I needed answering the most. My character spoke.
How do I seal the door?
You'll know as you continue on.
A puzzle, I thought to myself. This better not be some stupid find 5 keys to win bullshit. I chose another text option.
What is the Talo?
He is the creator of the world behind hell.
The old man whispered, leaning towards the screen. My character answered for me.
I don't understand.
The old man folded his arms and leaned against the wall, sighing again.
Before God and the devil, before heaven and hell, there was only the Talo. He created God. He created the devil. He made them rivals and watched them clash, watched them fight over, well, everything. Eventually, he grew sick of their bickering, no longer entertained by their conflict. He made heaven and hell and banished both of them to their kingdoms. But then God created Earth. He created it as a loophole. You see, God couldn't go to hell, but he could go down to Earth. But what did he find? His people already corrupted by the devil. The devil was fast in turning God's creations against him. I'm sure you're familiar with how things went from there, eh?
He continued.
The Talo had turned its back on them eons ago, instead focusing on other creations and experiments. But he has taken notice again. He has seen how his creations have snuck around his cosmic rules. And now he is furious and is coming back to wipe out everything.
I leaned back in my computer chair, taking this all in. This seemed like a pretty detailed story for a cheaply made online horror game. My character spoke.
So find the door and seal it before he returns. Is that really going to keep him back? One door?
The old man spoke again.
It isn't as easy as that, but yes, you will see. Now hurry on.
I pushed a couple buttons, trying to get more dialogue out of the old man, but he just grunted at me and pointed towards another hallway. I pressed on. As I walked, I noticed the cement textures changed to wood floors. Eventually, after another series of patience-testing turns and endless walking, I came upon a door at the end of the hallway. It was plain wood with a golden handle. This couldn't be the door I had to seal, was it? Couldn't be. I hadn't been playing for that long. I prompted my character to open the door and he went inside. The room was bare except for a single light bulb hanging from the ceiling, and something sitting under it. I approached and saw that it was a dog, chained to a metal spike that had been driven into the floorboards. It barked as I got closer, and it looked to be a golden retriever. A button prompt came onto the screen. Pet the dog. I pressed the key, and as my character reached out his hand and stroked its head, a voice boomed into my headset.
Kill it!
I paused, hands hovering over my keyboard. Really? They want me to kill it? That's a downer. I noticed something off to the side, barely illuminated by the circle of dim light. It was a baseball bat. I sighed. Well, game, you're a bastard for making me do this. My character picked up the bat, automatically turning back to face the dog who was looking at me, head cocked. I tried to execute an action, but nothing was responding to my input. That's when I noticed the little microphone icon in the bottom right corner of the screen.
Kill it!
The deep, rumbling voice repeated. My character spoke then.
Come on, tell me to hit it.
Well, this is getting strange, I said out loud.
What did you say? I couldn't understand you.
My character said. I blinked at my screen. What the hell?
What did you say? I couldn't understand you.
My mind caught up. I was supposed to use voice commands to tell my character what to do. I grimaced, not wanting to say anything. I knew it was just a game, but I had a special love for dogs, and I really didn't want to do it any harm. But I had done a lot of digging to find this game, and I would be damned if I didn't see it to the end. I cleared my throat and spoke into my headset's mic. Hit the dog. Immediately, my character brought the bat down onto the dog's back. The dog screamed and went down, rolling and howling at its spine fractured. My character didn't move, and the dog fell into a series of pathetic whimpers.
Kill it!
I pulled a hand down over my face and looked at the screen. I was starting to feel uncomfortable. The dog in the game looked up into the screen and continued to whimper loudly. Hit the dog. I said again, feeling my stomach churn slightly. Making me say it out loud was way worse than silently hitting a series of key commands. My character brought the bat down again over the dog's body, and I saw bone explode out from the dog's side, low-resolution blood staining its fur. The dog screamed again and arched its body, howling at the ceiling. For Christ's sake, hit it on its head! I yelled, feeling awful. The bat came down over the dog's head and silenced it with a sickening crunch. My character dropped the bat into the floor and watched it roll into the shadows, leaving a bloody trail. The microphone icon in the corner of the screen disappeared. For fuck's sake, I said, breathing heavily, slightly upset over what I had just done. I let my heart rate slow and sat watching the screen. I could understand now why that guy hadn't wanted to beta test the game. There's horror, and then there's just plain cruel. As I placed my fingers on the keyboard to continue playing, another voice echoed in the room. It was a woman's voice.
Bunny has awoken.
Whatever the hell that means, I said to myself. My character pulled his flashlight out, and I saw a door on the other end of the room. I gladly went for it, wanting to get past the scene I had just experienced. As I pushed through it, I jumped as the old man stood directly in front of me. Cheap, I muttered. The old man was blocking my path, so I prompted him to speak.
I know that wasn't easy, but you've done well. You're getting closer now. You need to be careful. Bunny has awoken. He has felt what you've done, and he wants nothing more than to stop you. If you see him, run. He has ended so many lives. I don't want yours added to the pile, and with so little time left before the Talo returns, I feel you're our last chance.
Text options appeared before me again, and I selected one. My character spoke.
Who's Bunny?
The old man leaned against the wall, shaking his head.
Something the Talo created a long time ago. It put him here as a safety measure in case anyone tried to seal the door between dimensions, between our reality and the many of the Talo. Bunny will hunt you. If he catches you, he will kill you. He wants to see his creator again and will let nothing stand between that. Now go, we don't have much time.
I cracked my knuckles across the keyboard and shifted my headphones over my ears. Okay, Bad Bunny, stay away, keep moving, seal the door, got it. I moved my character past the old man and down another hallway. I noticed that the wood textures on the floor were getting lighter and the width of the hallway was expanding. About every 30 or so steps, I would come across a square room, empty, with 3 other pathways extending from it, excluding the one I had just come from. I pressed on, hoping I wasn't looping back on myself, hoping the next hallway would lead to something other than an empty space. The darkness seemed to deepen, and I noticed a whirring sound repeating in my ears. It sounded like a giant fan rotating over and over again. I hoped this was a sign of progression and that I was getting closer to reaching my objective. So far, I wasn't impressed with the gameplay. It was fairly standard for this sort of thing, with repeating hallways, darkness, a light source, and a first-person perspective. But the intrigue of what I was learning about the game world kept me going. I was curious as to how this ended. I reached yet another empty room, and as I scanned my options as to what hallway I was going to go down next, I had my first real scare. The beam of my flashlight swept past one of the entranceways, and something was standing in it, looking directly at me. My heart exploded in my chest as I refocused my light on it. It stood about 9 feet tall, with the body of a man, completely naked. Its fingernails were grown out and extended into sinister-looking claws. Its body was scarred and muscular. And its face, starting at the neck, dark veins popped from under the skin, black and angry, snaking up under its chin. Its head was that of a bunny, its ears long and stiff, its fur black as hot tar. Its lower jaw had been completely ripped off, and it was missing an eye, its empty socket staring blank into the screen. Its good eye was completely white with no iris. Its teeth were yellow, and the 2 dominant front ones extended down from its gum line, reaching its chest. It stood there, visibly breathing, its body expanding and compressing. Then it shrieked and charged me. Screaming in terror at my computer, I fumbled over my keyboard and mouse, directing my character to flee. I reached for the sprint button and took off down the hallway, blood thundering in my ears and heart drumming in my chest. I lost myself in the maze, charging down whatever corridor was closest, hearing the terrifying shrieks of the bunny right behind me. Left, right, left, 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 right, straight, endlessly. I started to hear my character suck in breath and began to slow. No, 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 don't you stop! I yelled at my screen, hammering down on the sprint button. I chanced a quick mouse flick to view over my shoulder and saw the bunny just a few feet behind me on all fours, screaming and crashing down the hallway towards me. I rounded another corner and saw a door, just like the one with the dog behind it. My character crashed into it and burst through, going into an automatic animation of him slamming it closed behind him. He leaned against it, sucking in air, his voice raw in my ears. The screen shook as the bunny slammed into the wood, roaring angrily that his prey had escaped. After a few seconds, I heard it snarl and scurry away, back the way it had come. Jesus, I exhaled, leaning back in my chair for a moment. That was close. I rubbed my eyes and refocused as the screen shifted and my character looked towards the center of the room. It was identical to the one with the dog, a lone bulb hanging from the ceiling, spilling a gloomy glow at what lay under it. It was a child, a boy. There was a sack over his head that was tied at the neck with rope. He was bound to a wooden pole that had been hammered into the ground. He was struggling weakly against the ropes, crying softly. Oh, shit. Oh, come on, I said, shaking my head.
Don't. Just please don't.
Kill him!
The voice from earlier erupted in my headphones. The microphone icon appeared in the corner of the screen, and I vainly tapped my keys. No response. This is just sick, I said, not knowing what to do. My character spoke.
Told me to kill him.
Oh, fuck you, you sicko, I said.
What did you say? I couldn't understand you.
Shut up, I yelled.
What did you say? I couldn't understand you.
I exhaled slowly. This was a horror game, just a game. I was playing it alone in my empty apartment. No one had to see the horrible human being I was about to be. I closed my eyes and licked my lips. Kill him. My character walked behind the wooden pole and picked up an axe that had been resting against it. Oh, come on, I said, leaning forward in my seat. The kid struggled, hearing the noise, feeling what was about to happen. He cried louder and fought against his bindings, desperately trying to get away. My character circled the pole and stood in front of the child. He spoke.
Say it again.
I felt nauseous. This game was purposely fucking with me now. I gritted my teeth, preparing the words on my tongue. Kill the boy. In one swift motion, I watched as the axe was brought down, watched it from the eyes of the killer. There was a grisly thunk sound as he planted it directly into the kid's skull. Blood exploded from his head and splattered onto the screen, leaving red streaks. The boy died instantly. I took off my headphones and rubbed my eyes, clearing them of the image. I ran a hand through my hair and stared at the screen. This was gross. I was sure there were some people out there who would have no problem doing what I just did, but it didn't feel right to me. Even though it was just a game, I had just simulated murdering a child with my own voice. This is a horror game, I told myself. There's a reason this isn't available to the public. What did you expect? And I really did want to keep playing, see this thing to the end. If nothing else, to do it because so few had. This game was an exclusive experience, and I wanted to be one of the few to play it to completion. I put my headset back on, and my fingers found their familiar places on the keyboard. I continued. I walked my character out of the door on the other side of the room. Once again, the old man greeted me. I didn't jump this time, expecting his presence. He was leaning against the wall and looked up at me.
Almost done, son. Only one more room to go. You've gotten farther than most, I'll give you that. Most strangers that come through here have been killed by Bunny by now. Not you, though. Don't give in to despair. Don't give up. You're nearing the end.
He heaved himself off the wall and with a nod walked into the room I came from, the door closing behind him. I took a deep breath and began to walk. The hall looked different. The high walls were stained with a black substance, and the floor beneath my feet looked slimy, covered in patches of red ooze. The audio had changed again as well, a deep humming noise repeating in my ears. The high ceiling was gone, replaced with open sky, tiny white stars winking down at me. I took a moment and trained my character's head to look up at them. I watched them for a few moments, examining the way they glowed and shifted slightly in the great dark canvas of night. As I was about to move on, I heard something in the hall in front of me. 3 sharp bangs, then silence. After a few tense seconds, it repeated, and I saw the wall to my right begin to bow as something behind it tried to get through.
Time to go,
my character said. Couldn't agree more. I muttered and led him quickly down the hall, passing the source of noise. More dark, empty passages greeted me, and I continued through the now familiar process. As I went, the banging in the walls followed me, and they were growing more frantic. There's this last door, I said to myself, hoping something wasn't going to kill me this close to the end. Suddenly, as I entered another hall leading off from one of the square rooms, the banging hit twice in front of me, and then the wall exploded, a huge clawed human hand reaching out. It was followed by the large, grotesque head of Bunny pulling himself slowly from behind the wall. "Oh shit, go, go, go!" I yelled, turning my character around and taking him back into the square room. I quickly chose another path and slammed my finger down on the sprint button. Behind me, I heard heavy footsteps thudding toward me, along with a high-pitched animalistic snarl. I swallowed hard and watched as my character tore down the black hallway, his light ray bouncing as he ran. As soon as I could make out a corner, I quickly instructed my character to turn down it, feeling Bunny right behind. Without warning, the screen flashed red and I heard a scream. My character slowed, looking down at his leg, and we both saw a nasty gash torn from his calf. "Don't you die!" I yelled, urging him forward. I spun my character's head around and saw Bunny slowly walking towards me, his long, claw-like nails dripping red. He was a towering horror looming over me, illuminated only by my flashlight. "Go!" I screamed, tapping the sprint over and over. With agonizing effort, I limped down the hall, turned left, and saw it. A door! "Go, you bastard!" I yelled, leaning closer to my monitor. I heard Bunny behind me chattering, a sharp flurry of high-pitched noise. Almost there, just a little farther. My character was dragging his leg behind him now and breathing hard, blood staining the floor. Only another 20 feet, come on! Suddenly I went down, my character sprawled on the floor, gasping, flashlight bouncing down the hall and spinning to shine in my face. He was sucking in air, deep raw breaths that ripped down his throat. "No, get up!" I screamed, pounding on my keyboard. My character was suddenly flipped onto his back and I was staring directly into the mutilated face of Bunny. It leaned down and roared, exposing a dark throat and a long black tongue that hung limply on its chin. It reached down and grabbed me by the throat, lifting me up from the floor, its long claws wrapping around my throat. I could hear my character begin to gurgle as he stared into the empty eye socket of his attacker. "Do something!" I screamed, hands pounding on the keys, hoping for some response. Suddenly, my character's arm flew up and his fist slammed into the giant white remaining eye of Bunny, completely rupturing it. White slime and blood exploded onto the screen as his knuckles sank into Bunny's face. Screaming, Bunny dropped my character to the ground and clutched its face, reeling. "Yes!" I screamed. "Now run!" Audibly gasping, my character began crawling towards the door, the environment's pulsing through a blurry lens. He got to one knee and picked up the flashlight with a gore-soaked hand. I chanced one look back to see Bunny on his knees, screaming and holding his face, and then commanded my character to take the final steps to the door. And then I was through. I breathed a sigh of relief as it closed behind my character and the sound of Bunny faded. But then I saw what lay in front of me. Once again, the room remained the same as the last, dimly lit by a single bulb hanging overhead. This time, though, an older woman, probably 60, lay stretched out on a table, her head covered and bound by a dirty sack. Her arms and legs were tied to the four corners. I could hear her raspy voice sucking in air as she slowly twisted her wrists, testing her bindings.
Hello?
She croaked.
Is someone there? Please get me out of here.
My character automatically walked to the end of the table by her feet and stared down at her. I waited. Then the voice came, blasting like deep fire into my ears.
Rape her!
My mouth dropped open and my eyes widened. No. Are you kidding me? What kind of sickness was this? This wasn't something you put into a game. You just don't do this. No.
Just do it.
My character told me as the microphone icon appeared in the lower right corner of the screen. I sat in silence. This was the end, wasn't it? The last room? Oh, Christ, why this? I didn't want to do it. Having to say those words out loud, even in a game, sickened me. Just rolling the syllables around in my mind made me feel disgusting.
We're so close,
my character said quietly. I was torn. It was just a game. But how twisted was I to even have to simulate something like this? I covered my face in my hands. Just walk away. You're done with this. You've had your fun. This is sick. Just turn it off. But that little part of me refused to. I was almost done. I wanted to beat this damn thing. I wanted to see the end. Rape her, I said quietly. I turned away from the screen and took my headphones off. I sat in the darkness of my living room and felt disgusted. I felt nauseous. I stole a quick look at the screen and turned away quickly. It wasn't over. Fuck, who comes up with this? I said aloud, shaking my head. I checked my phone and saw that it was almost 3 a.m. I'd only been playing for an hour. It felt much, much longer. After a couple minutes, I put my headphones back on and turned to the screen. The woman was sobbing softly, the sack on her face forming around her mouth as she took desperate breaths. My character was standing at the foot of the table again, motionless. The microphone icon was still displayed on the screen. What the hell do you want me to do now? I asked, beginning to feel a deep hatred for the person I was playing. The voice followed.
Kill her!
I dropped my hands to my side, feeling them go numb against my chair. I stared, shaking my head slowly back and forth, a look of disgust plastered to my face. You're a sick motherfucker, I spat.
What did you say? I couldn't understand you.
Just kill her! I screamed, throwing my hands up. I watched as my character climbed on top of the table and crawled over the woman sitting on her chest. He reached down and began to strangle her. The noise was almost too much for me. She cried out, and then the gurgling began. It took what seemed like an eternity. Finally, my character climbed off her and stood motionless. The microphone symbol vanished.
Only one more thing to do now,
my character said. I slammed a fist down on my desk. What? I thought this was the end. Do I have to keep playing this shit? How many more sick things do I have to do? This was supposed to be the end, you fucking asshole. I'm done with this. I can't kill any more dogs or axe any more children. I've had enough. Fuck you and fuck this game. With that, I hit the escape button, bringing up a pause menu, and threw my headphones onto the floor. I had had my fill. I couldn't do it anymore. I stood up, shaking my head angrily, and pointed a finger at the screen. That was some sick shit. I don't want any more of this. That was the last thing I'm doing for you. I'm not going to sit here until sunrise torturing any more people. I stormed out of my living room into my small bathroom. I turned the faucet on and splashed water over my face, horrified at what I had just played. Why didn't I just stop? If anyone knew I had played through that, God only knows what kind of judgment they would cast on me. I dried my face, tried not to look in the mirror, and went to bed. My apartment was quiet in the deep of night, and my sheets were cool and soothing. I took a few moments and forced the game out of my head. I directed my thoughts to happier things and memories. In the darkness, I pulled out my iPod and popped some earbuds in. I needed some relaxing music to wash away the filth I had just played. Sighing deeply, I pulled my covers over me and steadied my breathing, letting the music lull me closer and closer to sleep.
Bunny has awoken.
My eyes flew open. What did I just hear? I glanced at my iPod and hit pause. The words had come from my earbuds. Silence. I checked the song that had just been playing. Nothing out of the ordinary. What the hell? My heart was thundering, and I tossed my iPod to the side, sitting up in bed. I just imagined that voice, right? It had just been an audio memory replaying in my subconscious. It had to be. And then I heard something. Something down the hall in my bathroom. Splashing. I calmed the storm in my chest and got out of bed. What the fuck was happening? I turned on the hallway light and listened. Splashing. I crept towards the bathroom door, sweat popping out on my forehead. I reached the door and peeked inside. Bunny screamed at me as it struggled to pull the rest of its body out of the toilet, his upper half leaning over the rim, claws digging into the floor. Its empty eye sockets dripped as water poured from them, and its teeth extended down and cut into the linoleum floor. I screamed, falling back and reeling in terror away from the pawing grasp of this monster clawing its way out of my toilet. I turned and sprinted into my bedroom, slamming the door as I heard the heavy thunk as Bunny pulled free. My breath came in long, burning gulps, and my mind raced to make sense of what was happening. I knew I only had seconds. What the fuck was going on? I needed to get out of here, needed to get to my car and drive away from this nightmare. What was it doing here? How was it here? Footsteps thudded outside my door, and I closed my eyes, whimpering and praying for help. Sweat ran down my face, and I licked my lips, face contorted in agonized fear. Behind me, I could feel Bunny tracing his big human hands over the wood, blind and angry. Then it kicked the door. I fell to the floor from the impact, sprawling in front of my bed. The wood shattered and blew inward, the hinges knocked clean off. I rolled to my side and under my bed as the door came crashing down where I had just been lying. The 9-foot giant ducked its head and entered the room. I lay, wheezing, tears forming in my eyes, holding back a scream that was rocketing through my body. I watched his feet take 2 steps forward, then stop. I put a hand to my mouth, trying to shove any noise back down my throat. With both eyes gone, Bunny began to sniff the air, taking long pulls and growling. Slowly, it knelt and got down on all fours. I watched, pulling away as it lowered its head to look under the bed, directly at me. The hollow eye sockets were 2 patches of dark ink, its fur ruffled and messy, its long teeth glowing in the night. It took one quick sniff, and then roared. A huge hand shooting out to grab me, claws whistling toward my face. I screamed, my pathetic hiding spot blown. I rolled out from under the bed and jumped onto the mattress. Without pausing, I dove for the door, my knee catching Bunny's face as it leapt up. It howled and pain exploded down my leg. I crashed awkwardly through the door, and then I was up, sprinting towards the front door. I grabbed my keys and phone from the counter and practically tore the front door off its hinges, escaping out into the hall. My car sat parked just a few feet behind the building. Without looking behind me, I ran for it, blasting the unlock button on my keychain with my thumb. Once inside my car, I turned it on, almost snapping the key in half. As I was about to back up, I looked up and saw Bunny thundering towards me on all fours, his long teeth sparking against the pavement as he ran. I shifted into gear and hit the gas, propelling my car forward with a screech. Bunny slammed into the side of the car with all its might, howling furiously. I felt whiplash shock my senses, and pain erupted in my arm as the driver's side door caved inward slightly from the impact. I never let off the gas, gritting my teeth and feeling blood leaking between them. I tore out of the parking lot, leaving the deformed monster behind. I pulled my phone out with a shaking hand, mind spinning in shock, and called my parents. They lived only a few miles down the road on the same street in the house I grew up in. "Please answer," I begged. "I need help, please, please, please." It went to voicemail, and I heard my dad instruct me to leave a message. I screamed into the phone. "Mom, Dad, call the police. There's something chasing me. I'm hurt and I need help. Call the fucking police now. I'm on my way over. I'll be there in a few minutes." I threw my phone down on the seat next to me and glanced in the rearview mirror. I didn't see it following me. It was the middle of the night, so the streets were empty. I silently flew down the street, the road lamps casting rapid shadows across my vision, making me jump at every one. My eyes darted from the road to my mirrors at a rapid pace, fully expecting to see Bunny right behind me. How was it here? Why was this happening? As I approached my parents' house, I saw the street bathed in blue light. The cops were already there, waiting for me. There must have been 10 cop cars lining the streets, surrounded by fire trucks and ambulances. Officers swarmed my parents' lawn, and I spotted my dad sitting on the curb. He looked up as I came screeching to a halt in front of him. I kicked my door open and got out, immediately embraced by my father. He hugged me tight and pulled me close, burying his face in my neck.
"I'm so glad to see you,"
he said, his voice weak and cracking. He pulled away, and I saw his eyes were red and bloodshot. "Dad, something weird is going on. You're not going to believe what I'm about to tell you," I said, the words fumbling out of my mouth in a rushed frenzy.
"Listen to me,"
he said softly, sorrowfully. He took me by the shoulders, his eyes swollen and brimming with tears.
"Your mother is dead,"
he croaked, mouth trembling.
She was
grit his teeth and shook his head, now weeping.
She was murdered, and
tears poured from his eyes.
And they raped her. God damn it, they raped my wife. My angel.
I felt the blood leave my face. My stomach rotted in on itself. The breath was punched from my lungs. I staggered, looking at my father, and felt myself knock into my car behind me as my knees disintegrated. I gasped for air. What did you say? I mumbled, barely aware of my surroundings, the world growing dark corners.
I'm so sorry, son,
my dad said, his whole body shaking as more tears fell.
There's more.
No, please, God. He wiped his eyes.
Your little brother, Lyle. Jesus Christ. They fucking killed him. They killed my little boy.
My father collapsed to the ground, sitting down hard on the pavement, covering his hands with his face.
I was sleeping on the couch. I didn't hear anything.
He looked up at me, pleading.
I could have saved them.
I sucked in air, the world spinning. Lyle, my brother, dead? It couldn't be true. There's just no way. Please. I suddenly bent over, pulverized by the shock and grief, and screamed. I shrunk to the pavement as mucus bubbled out of my nose and drool dripped from my chin. I screamed hard, my whole body convulsing as the crushing reality of my father's words hit me. He sobbed and rocked on the pavement, eyes squeezed closed so tightly I saw stars. I don't know how long I lay there, weeping and screaming. But as my energy drained, I felt a hand on my shoulder. I opened up my eyes, the face looking down on me blurry, and I cleared my vision with the back of my hand. It was the chief of police.
I can't tell you how sorry I am,
He said gently.
If there's anything I can do, please ask, and I'll do it.
Why? I cried, looking up at him.
I don't know.
He said, sighing heavily.
I wish I had an answer for you. Sometimes people just do bad things.
I sat up and pushed myself so my back was resting against my car.
Who did this? Who did this to my mother and brother?
The chief shook his head.
We don't know. But we'll catch them, I promise you. We will get the bastards who did this.
I paused. Them? He sat down next to me, glancing at my father across from us on the curb, who had stopped crying and was listening.
There's been a pattern of these incidents.
He said,
2 people. One watches, the other acts. We don't know why they do it, but it's always the same. A mother and a son. They even kill the fucking dog.
And that's when the horrible, sick realization dawned on me with the force of 1,000 suns. That game, that fucking game had done this. Somehow, some way, my actions had controlled the hands of fate into this waking night of terror. I leaned over and threw up on the ground. And then I threw up again. I felt dizzy and numb, my consciousness fading in and out, threatening to abandon me. What have I done? The police chief put a hand on my shoulder, a look of deep sympathy on his face. He remained silent, and we all sat there for what seemed like forever. The police streamed in and out of my parents' house, pushing past paramedics and detectives, all talking and looking grim. And that's when my phone rang. It was still in my car in the passenger seat, and I didn't hear it at first until my father nodded his head at me and said in a delirious voice,
That's your phone going off.
I staggered up, the police officer leaving us in privacy, and reached through the shattered window of my car. I looked at the screen and saw the incoming call was blocked. I numbly answered it. What?
Get back to your computer and finish what you started.
I blinked, feeling like I was floating above myself. That voice.
Only a few have made it so far. Please, the entirety of existence depends on it. You must go back.
Old man? I said incredulously.
Yes.
He said, his voice rising.
Please, I know your loss is great tonight, but the Talo has almost completely turned his vengeful gaze upon us. You need to go back and finish. The door is down one last hallway. That's it. Then we are safe and we all survive.
As he talked, I felt a burning inferno rising in my chest. You know what? Go fuck yourself, you sick, twisted bastard. I'm done with your fucking game. I'm done with this whole nightmare. It's a fucking game! My father and a few officers looked my way, hearing me yell. I turned away from them, walking behind my car. Oh, this isn't real. None of this can be real. My fucking family is dead! I screamed. I looked over at my father and saw him covering up his dead dog on the lawn. I hadn't even noticed it. I lowered the phone from my ear. I saw its face just before my dad covered it with a blanket. It looked like it had been pulverized. Jesus Christ, I whispered, pain sprouting from my chest. I raised the phone back to my ear. What is this? I asked. What is fucking happening? The old man answered in a hushed tone.
Without meaningful sacrifice, the sealing of the door will not hold. The blood of an animal, a child, and a broken mother is required. That's just the way it is. That's just the rules. I'm sorry, I really am, but you have to believe that the Talo is coming. This hurricane of violence is approaching.
And why the fuck should I believe anything you say? I snarled. Because of you, my family is shattered. Because of you, my family is dead.
Bunny has entered your world, hasn't he?
The old man said softly.
He's trying desperately to kill you, isn't he?
He paused, the silence stretching between us.
I thought so. I know this is madness to you, but you are the only person who has made it as long as you have after the third room. Please, all you need to do is to go back to your computer and walk down the last hallway. Please,
He suddenly stopped, the line going quiet. Then,
oh, heaven help me. Bunny's here. He's found me. Just go, not for me, but for what family you have left. Go!
The line went dead. I stood there in the night, seeing nothing. What had happened? When was I going to wake up? I looked at the somber buzz of people before me, and then I cast my eyes to the stars. Tears dripped down my face silently, and I breathed. Fuck you, I whispered. I quietly climbed into my car and drove away, seeing my father walk into the road behind me and stare, his face red in my taillights. I didn't think about anything, my body shutting down and going into autopilot. My mouth was closed, jawbones creaking as my teeth ground together. This was my nightmare. I pulled into my apartment building and marched straight back inside to my apartment. I slammed the door behind me and locked it, flipping on the lights as I went back to my computer. Silently, I sat back down in front of my screen. The game was still paused. I pulled my headphones and gripped the mouse. I resumed.
Where were you?
My character asked, his voice shaking. Go to hell, I growled. I moved him forward towards the door in the back of the room I was in. The dead woman's body still lay motionless on the table. My mother. My character pushed the door open, the familiar gloom of the hallway meeting us. The old man lay dead on the ground before me. It looked like he had been ripped to shreds in a torrent of fury. My character and I remained silent. At the end of the hallway, I saw light. We moved towards it, the echo of my character's footsteps vibrating off the walls. My heart was a sinking ship, my mind a melted sculpture. Just finish the game. As we stepped past the old man and walked down the hall, the passage widened again, and as we reached the source of light, I saw that it was a glowing white door. Above it was written in ashy black, "The End." As I approached the knob, the game took over and my character went into an automatic animation. His hands appeared covered in thick, dripping blood, and he slowly dragged them across the clean white surface of the door, making an X pattern. He then knelt in front of it, hands clasped together in front of him. He spoke, his voice soft.
Please, O God, hide your creations from the coming storm. Save us from the coming wrath. You have given us life, now please, we beg of you, shelter us from extinction. Cast your shadow upon the world so as to hide us from the Talo. This we pray, this we plead. Amen.
And then, the screen faded to darkness. It's been 3 days now. I sit here writing this out, the pain and sadness in my heart threatening to devour me. My father has tried to call me, visit me, but I can't talk to anyone. The blackness in my mind is growing greater. What did all this mean? What was it that I did? I haven't tried to contact the creators of the game, but I have a feeling that even if I did, I'd find no trace of them, and no trace of the game. Did I murder my family? Did I save the world from some cosmic apocalypse? And God help me. Where's Bunny?